Four locomotives slammed into a stuck truck at 64 miles per hour in downtown Pecos, Texas. December 18, 2024. The truck had been sitting on the Cedar Street crossing for approximately 1 minute, according to preliminary investigation timelines, with police lights flashing, 2 pilot vehicles, and an oversized industrial tower listed in court filings as visible from a long distance. The crew had straight track in clear weather, confirmed by the NTSB. They hit the brakes shortly before impact, according to event recorder data. Speed dropped from 68 to 64 miles per hour, a reduction of 4 miles per hour. Not enough. The impact displaced the load, which struck the Chamber of Commerce building. 4 locomotives and 11 cars derailed. Approximately 9,000 gallons of diesel fuel were released across the street. Phillip Araujo and Burt were in the lead cab. Both passed away. Emergency responders were dispatched shortly after the collision, but the locomotive was still running, with 9,000 gallons of diesel pooled around the wreckage. Court filings allege responders were unable to immediately access or shut down the locomotive. 20 minutes passed before they could reach the injured engineer. Union Pacific's nearest training facility was 96 miles away. Boss Heavy Haul alleges the railroad had never invited PECOS emergency crews for training and had never established coordination with local responders. Boss Heavy Haul's countersuit states those 20 minutes may have been the difference between Burt surviving or passing away. Those were 20 minutes, according to litigation claims, while trained responders stood outside, unable to access the cab because Union Pacific had never taught them how to get in. Phillip Araujo was 47, a conductor. He lived in Del Rio. He drove 230 miles to the Sweetwater yard for his shifts. He had been married for 19 years to Maria, and they had 3 children. Burt was 63, an engineer. He joined Union Pacific in 1998 and became a certified engineer in 2004. He had 26 years of service and 9 grandchildren. Both men were veterans with decades of experience running freight across West Texas. December 18th was supposed to be another regular shift, hauling intermodal to Los Angeles. Phillip passed away at the scene. Clay passed at the hospital. Modern freight locomotives have safety compartments, reinforced spaces engineered to protect crews during collisions. Post-accident inspection reports indicate the nose section of locomotive 8245 held up as designed. Collision posts were intact, anti-climb equipment worked, and the front structure absorbed the impact as designed. But the CAB where Phillip and Clay sat was destroyed. Boss Heavy Haul's lawsuit says Union Pacific never adequately trained crews on when or how to use those compartments. The protection was built into that locomotive, but the crew stayed in the cab during the approach and the collision. That did not help, because according to court filings, they either lacked that training or they did not have time to reposition before impact. Cedar Street crossing was not some unknown problem. U.S. Route 285 crosses Union Pacific's main line through downtown Pecos at what railroaders call a humped crossing. The pavement slopes steeply over the rails. Heavy trucks carrying oil field equipment regularly get stuck on that hump. Everyone in Pecos knows this. Public records show that in 2019, a Union Pacific train hit a truck at this exact crossing. Nothing got fixed. It goes deeper. In 2020, Buck Russell, Union Pacific's senior supervisor for public safety, gave sworn testimony about a 2018 PECOS crash. He said that higher management at Union Pacific instructed him to arrange asphalt repairs at Reeves County crossings because vehicles were getting high-centered, creating potential collisions and injuries to crews and the public. 4 years later, at the same crossing, Phillip and Clay passed away. The track runs straight for over a mile before that crossing. Weather was clear, 55 degrees, and conditions were confirmed in preliminary reports. The truck had been stationary on those rails for roughly 60 seconds, according to initial timelines. Police lights, pilot vehicles, everything lit up. The train was doing 68 miles per hour when they hit the brakes. Preliminary event recorder data indicates braking occurred shortly before impact based on a 4-mile-per-hour speed drop. A train at 70 miles per hour covers over a mile and a half in 60 seconds. They appeared to have both time and distance based on track geometry and preliminary data. So what happened in that cab? Did they think the truck would move? Did they misjudge the closing speed? Those questions remain unanswered pending the final NTSB report, currently expected in 2026. Train Z, AILA 18, was not just any freight. It was a Z train, generally treated as a higher priority intermodal service on Union Pacific's network. Z trains carry time-sensitive intermodal cargo, often UPS shipments that have to make specific connections in Los Angeles. These trains run extremely tight schedules, where every minute matters because delays cost money. Nobody officially says schedule pressure played a role, and investigators have not made that determination. But when you understand what a Z train is and what is expected of crews running them, you can see how calculations might work differently in those critical seconds, and why schedule pressure can matter. Here is what makes this particularly ugly. Union Pacific knew Cedar Street was dangerous since at least 2018, based on sworn testimony. They had a 2019 collision at the exact spot. Management was informed, solutions were discussed, and nothing changed. Meanwhile, they kept running Z trains at authorized speeds up to 70 miles per hour through that crossing, with crews who allegedly were not trained to use safety equipment that could have saved lives, and with first responders who, according to court filings, could not access injured men for 20 critical minutes. That is not bad luck or unfortunate circumstances. That is a pattern of decisions where operational efficiency and cost management took priority over fixing known safety problems until two men with families paid the price. Boss Heavy Haul's countersuit lists 7 failures. First, maintaining that dangerous crossing despite the 2019 crash and the 2020 testimony. Second, crew braking relatively late despite clear conditions. Third, no radar or LiDAR detection technology to warn crews about objects on crossings. Fourth, crossing signals activating only 25 seconds before trains at 70 miles per hour, which Boss Heavy Haul argues is insufficient for heavy loads. Fifth, gates hitting the cargo and not closing fully, an issue alleged never communicated to crew or dispatcher. Sixth, an unused safety compartment and inadequate training. Seventh, first responders never trained according to the countersuit, despite Union Pacific claiming coordination with fire departments. Each point raises questions. Together, they show a systemic failure across multiple levels. Union Pacific says everything followed federal regulations. Train speed was compliant, crossing signal timing met FRA standards, and Cedar Street handles truck traffic daily without incidents. Technically correct, but following minimum regulations does not mean systems are adequate for real conditions, and 2 experienced railroaders with more than 40 combined years are gone. The families sued Union Pacific and Boss Heavy Haul for over $1 billion. Union Pacific sued Boss Heavy Haul, driver Jason Wayne Melius, and Bennett Companies. Boss Heavy Haul countersued, 3 lawsuits pointing fingers everywhere. The NTSB preliminary report came in January 2025. It confirmed basic facts but did not determine probable cause, and it did not answer why the crew braked so late. The investigation remains ongoing, with a final report expected in 2026. Phillip's funeral was December 23rd. Clay's was December 27th. A memorial service was January 19th at the west of the PECOS Museum, with hundreds of railroad workers attending. The Chamber of Commerce building is still standing but damaged. The Cedar Street crossing remains, with the same humped pavement that had caused problems for years. Trains still run through downtown PECOS at the authorized maximum speed of 70 miles per hour every day. 1 year later, the questions do not have answers. Straight track, clear conditions, over a mile of straight approach. Brakes at a quarter mile. Why? The investigation is ongoing. Some lawsuits are sealed. Phillip drove 230 miles each way for his family. Clay had 9 grandchildren. On December 18th, 2024, something went wrong in that cab, and neither man made it home. That is what happened in PECOS. The rest we are waiting to find out.